The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose toward the crystal dome above. Representatives from across the galaxy had come to hear what Ambassador Cathara had to say. The ancient Vorthak had called this emergency session, and when the oldest species in known space called for attention, everyone listened. Cathara stood at the center of the hall. Her 6 arms moved in practiced gestures as she spoke. Her voice carried easily through the vast space, translated instantly into hundreds of languages by the Council's systems. She had lived for over 3,000 years and had seen the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. Today she brought a warning that few would believe. "Fellow Council members," she began, her deep voice echoing off the walls. "I stand before you to speak of a new species. They call themselves humans. Their world is called Earth, located in the outer spiral arm of this galaxy. They have just achieved faster-than-light travel. By all accounts, they appear to be a young, emotional species with limited technology." Murmurs rippled through the assembled crowd. New species were discovered regularly. Most were either absorbed into existing empires or left alone to develop on their own. Few posed any real threat to the established order. War Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Dominion stood up in his section. His scaled face showed open contempt. "Why do we waste time discussing primitives? If they have resources, we take them. If they resist, we crush them. This is the way of the strong." Several other warrior species voiced their agreement. The Zephyrians had built their empire through conquest and saw no reason to change their methods now. They had advanced weapons, powerful ships, and centuries of military experience. What could one small world possibly do against them? Cathara raised one of her arms for silence. "That is exactly why I called this meeting. We have been watching these humans for some time. We have studied their history, their behavior, their responses to threats. What we have learned should concern us all." She activated a holographic display that showed images from Earth, cities filled with billions of beings, vast oceans and green continents, space stations orbiting the planet and small colonies on nearby worlds. To most observers, it looked like any other developing civilization. "Humans appear peaceful at first glance," Cathara continued. "They engage in trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. They seem to prefer negotiation to conflict. But there is something else about them that makes them different from every other species we have encountered." The display changed to show scenes from human history: battles, wars, entire continents consumed by conflict. The images were brutal and shocking, even to species that were no strangers to violence. When humans are threatened or attacked, they do not respond with equal force. They do not seek limited victory or territorial gain. They respond with everything they have until the threat is completely eliminated. They call it total war, and they have practiced it for thousands of years on their own world. General Zorthak of the hegemony laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "So they fight among themselves. Many species do this. It means nothing. Divided, they are weak. We could conquer them easily." Cathara's expression grew grim. "You misunderstand. When humans fight each other, they hold back. They have rules, limits, codes of conduct. But when they face an external threat to their species, all of those limitations disappear. We have observed this pattern throughout their history. Any force that attacks humanity without provocation faces not just retaliation, but complete destruction." She changed the display again, showing more recent events from Earth. Humans working together on massive projects, space elevators reaching into orbit, asteroid mining operations, generation ships being built in orbital shipyards. They have been preparing for interstellar contact for decades. Every colony ship they build can be converted to a warship. Every mining vessel can be turned into a weapon. Every civilian knows basic combat training. They do not have a military separate from their population. In times of crisis, their entire civilization becomes their military. The hall grew quieter as the implications sank in. Most species maintained clear divisions between their military and civilian populations. The idea of an entire civilization mobilizing for war was foreign and disturbing. War Commander Vextar stood again, his voice filled with scorn. Fear-mongering from an old species that has grown weak. The Zephyrian Dominion has conquered hundreds of worlds. These humans have barely left their own system. Their ships are primitive. Their weapons are basic. They pose no threat to anyone with real power. Many of the younger, more aggressive species nodded in agreement. The Zephyrians had indeed built one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Their ships were fast and heavily armed. Their soldiers were trained from birth for combat. They had never met a species they could not defeat or subjugate. Kithara looked directly at Vextar. "Commander, I have lived long enough to see patterns that others miss. I have watched species far more advanced than these humans make the mistake of underestimating them. The ones who survived learned to leave humanity alone. The ones who did not learn are no longer with us." "Impossible," Vextar snarled. "No primitive species could threaten established powers. You speak of myths and legends." "I speak of observation and fact," Kethara replied calmly. "Humans have a saying. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. They offer friendship to those who approach them in peace, but to those who attack them without cause, they offer only destruction. Complete, total, and final destruction." The ancient ambassador gestured to the display one final time. It showed human ships leaving Earth's solar system, heading out into the galaxy. Small exploration vessels with minimal armament, crewed by scientists and diplomats. "They are coming," she said simply. "They seek trade, knowledge, and peaceful contact. I urge you all to receive them as friends. Because if you choose to make them enemies, you will discover that everything I have told you today is true, and, by then, it will be too late to change your mind." The hall erupted in debate as species argued about the warning. Some, particularly the older civilizations, listened carefully to Kethara's words. Others, drunk on their own power and military might, dismissed her concerns as the paranoid ramblings of a species past its prime. War Commander Vextar left the hall early, already planning his next conquest. After all, what could one small world possibly do against the might of the Zephyrian Dominion? Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the stars streak past through the main view screen. 3 months had passed since humanity's first exploration vessel had left Earth's solar system. The mission was simple: make peaceful contact with any alien civilizations they encountered and establish diplomatic relations. The Horizon was not a warship. It carried scientific equipment, cultural artifacts from Earth, and gifts intended for new species they might meet. The crew of 200 included linguists, anthropologists, engineers, and diplomats. They had weapons, but only for defense against pirates or hostile wildlife. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station, "I'm detecting multiple ships on long-range sensors. They appear to be heading directly toward us." Morrison moved to the tactical display. 5 large vessels were approaching from the direction of a nearby star system. Their design was unfamiliar, but the energy signatures suggested advanced technology. "Distance and time to intercept?" Morrison asked. 2 hours at current speed, replied Commander Ryan Blake from the security console. "They're moving fast, definitely faster than us." Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her science station. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from those ships. They're heavily armed, much more so than anything we've seen before." Morrison nodded. This was the moment they had all prepared for. First contact with an alien species. He activated the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact with your people. Please respond." The reply came quickly, but the universal translator struggled with the alien language. When it finally processed the message, the words were cold and commanding. "Human vessel, you will shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." The bridge fell silent. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. "Send another message," Morrison ordered. "Tell them, we are on a peaceful mission. We have no hostile intentions." Amy sent the message, but the response was the same demand to surrender. The alien ships continued their approach, weapons powered and ready. "Captain," Ryan said quietly. "They're not interested in talking. These look like military vessels. I think they see us as prey." Morrison made a decision that would change everything. "All hands, this is the captain. We are about to encounter a potentially hostile alien force. All personnel to emergency stations. Prepare for possible combat." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Horizon might not be a warship, but every human vessel was built with the possibility of conflict in mind. Weapon systems came online. Shields powered up. Damage control teams took their positions. The alien ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel just outside weapon range. They were massive, easily 3 times the size of the Horizon. Their hulls were covered in weapon ports and armor plating. These were ships built for war. "Captain Morrison," came a new voice over the communication system. "I am Subcommander Crixtal of the Zephyrian Dominion. Your species is unknown to us, but your vessel appears to contain valuable technology. You will surrender your ship and crew for processing. This is not a request." Morrison felt his jaw tighten. "Sub-Commander, we are explorers, not enemies. We seek peaceful relations with your people. There is no need for conflict." "Conflict?" The alien's voice carried obvious amusement. "There is no conflict here. There is only surrender or death. Your choice is simple." 2 of the Zephyrian ships moved closer, their weapons trained on the Horizon. The other 3 formed a surrounding pattern, cutting off any escape route. "Captain," Lisa said from her station, "I'm reading massive energy. Build up in their weapons. They're preparing to fire." Morrison had to make a choice. Surrender and hope the aliens would honor some kind of prisoner rights or fight against impossible odds. He thought about his crew, his mission, and the responsibility he carried as humanity's first ambassador to the stars. "Ryan, can we outrun them?" "No, sir. They're faster than us. We might be able to fight our way out, but the odds are not good." Morrison activated the intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. We are being threatened by an alien force that demands our surrender. As representatives of humanity, we cannot allow ourselves to be taken as slaves or specimens. We will defend ourselves and our mission. All crew to battle stations." The first Zephyrian ship fired without warning. Energy beams struck the horizons, shields causing the ship to shake violently. Emergency lights flickered on as power conduits overloaded. "Return fire," Morrison commanded. The Horizon's weapons, designed for asteroid mining and defense against small threats, struck back at the massive alien vessel. The beams barely scratched the Zephyrian ship's armor. "Boarding pods launching from the lead ship," Ryan reported. "They're coming through our shields." The battle became a nightmare. Zephyrian warriors 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor blasted through the Horizon's hull. They moved through the corridors, killing anyone who resisted and capturing those who surrendered. Morrison found himself fighting alongside his security team in the main corridor. The aliens were stronger and better armed, but the humans fought with desperate determination. "Captain," Amy called out over the battle noise, "I'm getting reports from all over the ship. They've broken through on 7 different levels." "Doctor," Grant fell beside Morrison, struck down by alien weapons as she tried to help wounded crew members. Her research assistant, a young man named Tony Brooks, died trying to protect the ship's computer systems from alien hackers. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, 37 humans were dead, including some of Morrison's closest friends. The survivors were gathered in the main cargo bay, surrounded by Zephyrian guards. Sub-Commander Crixtal walked among the human prisoners, examining them like specimens. "Your species fights well for primitives," he said to Morrison. "You will make excellent slaves. Your technology is crude but shows potential. We will study both." Morrison looked at the alien commander with pure hatred. "You attacked us without cause. We came in peace and you murdered my people." Crixtal laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Peace is for the weak. The strong take what they need. Your species will learn this lesson or it will die." The Zephyrian commander activated a communication device. "Command, this is Crixtal. Easy prey confirmed. The humans are weak and emotional. I recommend we begin harvesting operations immediately." There are billions of them on their homeworld, and their resistance will be minimal. Morrison felt something cold settle in his chest. These aliens had not just attacked his ship. They were planning to attack Earth itself. Everyone he loved, everything humanity had built was now in danger. He caught Ryan's eye across the cargo bay. His security chief nodded slightly. They both understood what had to happen next. Morrison activated his emergency beacon, a device that would send a coded message back to Earth. The message was simple but would change everything. Omega Protocol authorized. We have casualties. The galaxy needs to understand what happens when you hurt humans. Admiral Sam Carter stood in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, staring at the emergency message that had just arrived from deep space. The Omega Protocol. He had hoped never to see those words again. The last time humanity had used, it was during the Mars Colony War, when separatist forces had massacred civilians on Europa Station. That war had ended with the complete destruction of the rebel fleet and the surrender of every separatist colony. Now the protocol was being invoked against an alien species that had killed humans and threatened Earth itself. "Get me President Williams on the secure line," Carter ordered, "and activate the emergency council. We're going to war." Within 6 hours, every major leader on Earth and in the colonies knew what had happened to the UES Horizon. The response was swift and absolute. The president addressed the world from the emergency bunker in Washington. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of human space. "Today our peaceful mission of exploration was met with unprovoked violence. 37 of our people are dead. The survivors are prisoners of a hostile alien empire that has declared its intention to enslave our entire species." The president paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "We did not seek this war. We offered friendship and received murder in return. But let the galaxy understand this. When you attack humanity, you do not attack a single ship or a single world. You attack all of us, and we will respond with everything we have until the threat to our people is completely eliminated." She activated the emergency war powers that had been written into human law centuries earlier. Every ship, every factory, every resource in human space was now dedicated to one purpose: the total destruction of the Zephyrian Dominion. The transformation was terrifying to watch. Within 72 hours, the entire human civilization had become a war machine. Colony ships were stripped of their passenger quarters and fitted with weapons. Mining vessels were loaded with planet-cracking explosives. Research stations began, producing weapons that had only existed in theory. Fleet Admiral Kate Phillips stood on the bridge of the massive battleship UES Vengeance, watching as hundreds of ships formed up around her. This was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled, but it was not just a military force, it was an expression of pure human rage. "Admiral," called out Captain Danny Rodriguez from the destroyer UES Retribution. "All fleets report ready for jump. Total count is 847 vessels." Phillips nodded. The number was staggering. In less than 3 days, humanity had assembled a fleet larger than most alien empires possessed in their entire military. But these were not just warships. These were the tools of human industry turned to the purpose of war. "Send the message to all ships," Phillips ordered. "This is not a battle for territory or resources. This is war for the survival of our species. We do not seek victory. We seek the complete elimination of the threat to our people. No mercy, no quarter, no survivors who might threaten us again." The human fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading directly for Zephyrian space. They carried with them weapons that the aliens had never seen, and tactics that had been refined through thousands of years of human warfare. Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian home system, War Commander Vexitar received reports of the approaching human fleet with amusement. His intelligence officers estimated the humans had perhaps 50 ships, probably obsolete exploration vessels hastily armed for combat. "Prepare the Third Fleet to intercept them," Vexitar ordered. 200 ships should be more than enough to crush these primitives. We will make an example of them that will terrify any other species thinking of resisting us. Sub-Commander Krikstal, fresh from his victory against the Horizon, stood beside his commander. "Sir, the humans fought harder than expected. Perhaps we should send additional forces." Vexitar's scaled face showed contempt. "You worry too much, Crixtal. They are emotional creatures. They will fight bravely for a few minutes, then surrender. When they realize they cannot win. We have conquered hundreds of species. These humans are no different." The Zephyrian Third Fleet moved to intercept the humans at the edge of their territory. It was a powerful force, led by experienced commanders, who had never known defeat. Their ships were fast, heavily armed, and protected by energy shields that could deflect most weapons. When the two fleets met in the void between stars, the Zephyrians expected a brief, one-sided battle. Instead, they encountered something that would haunt alien nightmares for generations. The human fleet did not behave like any military force they had ever faced. Instead of forming traditional battle lines, the humans swarmed their enemies like angry insects. Small, fast ships darted between the massive Zephyrian vessels, striking at weak points with weapons that cut through alien armor like paper. "What are those weapons?" demanded Commander Velthak as his flagship shuddered under human fire. "Our shields are useless against them." His science officer studied the readings with growing horror. "Sir, they appear to be using focused particle beams, combined with some kind of matter disruptor. The technology is completely unknown to us. But the weapons were only part of the nightmare. The humans fought with a coordination and determination that seemed impossible. When one ship was damaged, others moved to protect it. When aliens tried to retreat, humans pursued them relentlessly. There was no pause, no mercy, no opportunity to surrender." Captain Rodriguez spoke to his crew as the Retribution closed in on a damaged Zephyrian cruiser. "Remember what they did to our people on the horizon. Remember that they planned to enslave our entire species. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, not a single Zephyrian ship remained intact. Some had been blown apart by human weapons. Others had been captured by boarding parties that showed no interest in taking prisoners. The few survivors were allowed to escape in small pods carrying a message back to their commanders. Admiral Phillips broadcast on all frequencies, knowing the aliens would hear her words. "This is Fleet Admiral Kate Phillips of the United Earth Forces. You attacked our people without provocation. You killed our friends and family. You declared war on humanity itself. This is our response. We are coming for you. All of you. And we will not stop until every threat to our people has been eliminated forever." The message reached Zephyrian Command within hours. War Commander Vexitar stared at the battle reports with growing disbelief. His entire Third Fleet destroyed. 800 human ships heading directly for Zephyrian space. Weapons that could cut through their best defenses. For the first time in his long military career, Vexitar felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. These humans were not the weak, emotional creatures he had expected. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that had turned their entire civilization into a weapon pointed directly at his people. "Send word to all our fleets," he ordered, his voice shaking. "Full mobilization. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. The humans are coming and they mean to destroy us all." But even as he gave the orders, Vexitar knew it might already be too late. The humans had shown they could strike anywhere, anytime, with overwhelming force, and they had made it clear they would accept nothing less than the complete destruction of anyone who threatened their people. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you made humanity angry. The Zephyrian home system had never seen war within its borders. For over 1,000 years, their fleets had projected power across the galaxy, conquering weaker species and expanding their empire. Now, for the first time in their history, enemy ships were approaching their core worlds. War Commander Vexitar stood in the command center on Zephyr Prime, watching the tactical displays with growing horror. The human fleet had swept through 3 outer systems in less than a week. Every Zephyrian military installation had been completely destroyed. Every fleet sent to stop them had been annihilated. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded from his intelligence officer. "Latest count shows over 900 vessels, sir. But they keep arriving, It appears their entire civilization is mobilizing for war. Vextar slammed his fist on the control panel. This is impossible. They are a primitive species that barely knows how to travel between stars. How can they field such a massive force? The answer came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Krixal, the same diplomat who had tried to negotiate with the humans, entered the command center with a data pad in his hands. Commander, I have been studying human transmissions that our intelligence services intercepted. I believe I understand what we are facing. Vextar turned to face the ambassador. Explain. These humans do not have a separate military class like us. Their entire population is trained for warfare. Every civilian knows how to fight. Every ship can be converted to military use. Every factory can produce weapons. We are not fighting their army, Commander. We are fighting their entire species. The implications of this revelation hit Vextar like a physical blow. The Zephyrian military was powerful, but it represented only a small fraction of their total population. Most Zephyrians were workers, administrators, or civilians who had never held a weapon. The humans, it seemed, had no such division. "Sir," called out a communications officer, "incoming transmission from the human fleet. They are demanding our surrender." "Put it through," Vextar ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a human warship. A tall woman in a military uniform stood at the center, her face hard as stone. This was Fleet Admiral Kate Phillips, and her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "War Commander Vextar, I am Admiral Phillips of the United Earth Forces. Your forces attacked our peaceful exploration vessel and murdered our people without provocation. You have declared your intention to enslave our entire species. This is your one and only chance to surrender unconditionally." Vextar stepped forward, trying to project strength despite the fear growing in his chest. "Admiral Phillips, surely we can negotiate terms. The attack on your ship was a misunderstanding. We can reach an agreement that benefits both our peoples." Phillips' expression did not change. "There are no terms. There is no negotiation. You killed our people. You threatened our families. You started a war that you cannot win. Surrender now, or we will take your worlds by force." "And if we surrender," Vextar asked, "what happens to our people? Your military will be disbanded. Your weapons will be destroyed. Your leaders will face justice for the crimes they have committed. But your civilians will be protected and treated with dignity. This is more mercy than you showed our people." Vextar looked around the command center at his officers. Many were veterans of dozens of campaigns. They had never known defeat, never faced an enemy that demanded their complete surrender. The idea was unthinkable. "We refuse," he said finally. "The Zephyrian Dominion will never bow to primitives." Phillips nodded as if she had expected this answer. "Then you have chosen extinction. All human forces, commence Operation Cleansing Fire. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The transmission ended, and within minutes the human fleet began its assault on the Zephyrian home system. But this was not the kind of warfare the aliens had ever experienced. The humans did not target military installations first. They did not follow the traditional rules of engagement. Instead, they struck everywhere at once with overwhelming force. Colonel Beth Williams led the first wave of ground forces as they landed on Zephyr Prime. Her troops had been briefed on the enemy they faced and the crimes they had committed. There was no sympathy in their hearts, no mercy in their tactics. "Remember," she told her soldiers as their transport ships approached the planet's surface, "these aliens killed our people in cold blood. They planned to enslave our entire species. They chose this war. Now they get to see what human warfare really looks like." The Zephyrian defense forces were skilled and brave, but they were not prepared for human tactics. The aliens fought in traditional formation, following established patterns of warfare that had served them well for centuries. The humans fought like demons, using every trick and strategy they had developed through thousands of years of conflict. Human soldiers moved through Zephyrian cities with ruthless efficiency. They targeted command centers, communication hubs, and weapons factories. But they also did something the aliens had never seen before. They protected civilian populations even while destroying military targets. General Paul Stevens, commanding the assault on the planet's capital, received a communication from a group of Zephyrian civilians who had barricaded themselves in a shelter. Human commander. The alien voice was shaking with fear. We are not soldiers. We are workers, families, children. Please do not kill us. Stevens's response was broadcast throughout the city. Civilians will not be harmed. We are not here to commit genocide. We are here to end the threat your military poses to our people. Stay in your shelters and you will be safe. This was the difference between human warfare and alien warfare. The Zephyrians conquered through terror and brutality, enslaving entire populations. The humans fought to eliminate threats while protecting the innocent. The battle for Zephyr Prime lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Zephyrian military had been completely destroyed, but the civilian population remained unharmed. Zephyrian soldiers who surrendered were treated as prisoners of war. Those who continued fighting were eliminated without mercy. War Commander Vextar was captured in his command bunker, surrounded by the bodies of officers who had chosen to fight to the death rather than surrender. As human soldiers led him away, in restraints he looked up at Colonel Williams. You could have destroyed our entire species, he said, confusion in his voice. Why did you spare the civilians? Williams looked down at the defeated alien commander. Because we are not you. We do not make war on children and families. We make war on those who threaten our people. You chose to be our enemy. Your civilians did not. As news of the fall of Zephyr Prime spread throughout the galaxy, other species began to understand what they were witnessing. The humans had not just defeated the Zephyrian military. They had demonstrated a new kind of warfare, total in its scope, merciless to enemies but protective of innocents. Ambassador Cathara of the Vorthak Empire watched the reports from her private chambers. She had tried to warn the galaxy about humanity's true nature. Now everyone could see the results of ignoring that warning. The Zephyrian Dominion, one of the most powerful empires in known space, had been brought to its knees in less than 2 weeks. And the humans were not finished. They had made it clear that they would not stop until every threat to their people was eliminated forever. The galaxy was learning a harsh lesson. Humanity could be the most generous friend or the most implacable enemy. The choice of which one you faced depended entirely on how you chose to treat them first. 3 months after the first attack on the UES horizon, the Zephyrian Dominion ceased to exist as a military power. The surrender came not from their leaders, but from individual planet governors who could no longer watch their worlds burn under human assault. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted after his survival of the Horizon incident, stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the UES Justice. Through the viewscreen, he could see the former Zephyrian capital world of Zephyr Prime. The planet's cities were intact, but every military installation had been reduced to rubble. Admiral, reported Captain Linda Hayes from the communications station, we're receiving surrender transmissions from the last 3 Zephyrian fleet commanders. They're requesting terms. Morrison's face showed no emotion. Tell them the same thing we told all the others. Unconditional surrender. Complete. Disarmament. War crimes tribunals for all military leaders involved in attacking civilian targets. No exceptions. The transformation of former Zephyrian space had been swift and absolute. Human administrators, led by experienced colonial governors, took control of every former Dominion world. But unlike the Zephyrian conquest model, the humans came not as conquerors but as reluctant peacekeepers. Lieutenant Colonel Mary Brooks walked through the streets of Zethara, the former Zephyrian capital city. Around her, alien civilians went about their daily lives under human protection. The contrast with Zephyrian rule was striking. Under their own government, these people had lived in fear of arbitrary violence from the military caste. Under human rule, they experienced something they had never known: safety. Colonel Brooks, called out Dr. Alan Parker, the human administrator for civilian affairs. The Zephyrian Council of Elders is here for the daily briefing. Brooks nodded and entered the government building that had once housed the Zephyrian military command. Now it served as the center of human civil administration. The irony was not lost on her. The Zephyrian elders, representatives of the civilian population, filed into the meeting room. These were not warriors or politicians. They were teachers, doctors, engineers, and farmers who had been chosen by their communities to work with the human administrators. Elder Sekthar, an aged Zephyrian with scarred hands from decades of manual labor, spoke for the group. Colonel Brooks, our people wish to know how long human rule will continue. When will we be allowed to govern ourselves again? Brooks looked at the assembled aliens with something approaching sympathy. These civilians had suffered under their own military government for generations. The human occupation had actually improved their lives dramatically. Elder Sekthar, she replied, that depends entirely on your people. We are not here to build an empire. We are here to ensure that the threat to humanity is permanently eliminated. When we are satisfied that your species will never again attack innocent people, we will leave. Another elder, Velmaya, raised a tentative hand. What of our military leaders? What of War Commander Vextar and the others? They will face trial for their crimes, Brooks said simply. Those who ordered attacks on civilian ships and planned the enslavement of entire species will be held accountable. This is not negotiable. The trials had begun immediately after the surrender. Human military tribunals, operating under strict rules of evidence and due process, reviewed the actions of every Zephyrian military leader. The proceedings were broadcast throughout former Dominion space, showing alien civilians exactly what their leaders had done in their name. War Commander Vexistar sat in the defendant's chair, facing a panel of human judges. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Communications intercepts, battle recordings, and testimony from his own officers painted a picture of systematic brutality that had lasted for decades. Judge Commander Robert Stone read the charges in a voice that carried throughout the courtroom. Vextar of the former Zephyrian Dominion, you are charged with ordering unprovoked attacks on civilian vessels, planning the enslavement of sentient species, and violation of the basic laws of warfare. How do you answer these charges? Vextar's response was defiant to the end. I answer that I served my people and my empire. Everything I did was for the glory of the Zephyrian Dominion. Even ordering the attack on an unarmed exploration vessel? Stone asked. Even planning to enslave billions of innocent humans? The strong rule the weak, Vextar replied. This is the natural order. You humans have simply proven yourselves stronger than we believed. Stone studied the alien war criminal for a long moment. The natural order, according to humanity, is that innocent people should be protected from those who would harm them. You chose to make yourself a threat to innocent lives. The sentence of this tribunal is exile to the prison world of Kepler 442b, where you will spend the remainder of your natural life with others who share your beliefs about the right of the strong to prey upon the weak. The sentence was carried out immediately. Vexitar and hundreds of other Zephyrian war criminals were transported to a harsh but habitable world on the edge of the galaxy. They would live, but they would never again threaten anyone. But the human response went beyond punishment. It included something that shocked the galaxy: reconstruction. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian civilians to rebuild the infrastructure that had been damaged in the war. Human doctors treated wounded aliens. Human teachers helped establish schools where young Zephyrians could learn about peaceful coexistence. Captain Gary Thompson supervised the rebuilding of a major spaceport on Zephyr Prime. His construction crews included both humans and Zephyrians working side by side. The site would have been impossible under the old regime. Why do you help us? Asked Mektor, a young Zephyrian engineer. We were your enemies. Our leaders killed your people. Thompson paused in his work and looked at the alien. Your leaders were our enemies. You were just people trying to live your lives under a bad government. We don't make war on civilians. We protect them, even from their own leaders if necessary. The reconstruction extended to every aspect of Zephyrian society. The rigid caste system that had divided their people for millennia was abolished. The military class that had ruled through fear was disbanded forever. In its place, humans helped establish a civilian government based on elected representation. Dr. Susan Mitchell worked with Zephyrian social scientists to design new institutions. Your old system concentrated power in the hands of those most willing to use violence, she explained to a group of alien scholars. A stable society requires that power be held by those who serve the common good, not their own ambitions. The changes were dramatic and swift. Within 6 months of the surrender, former Zephyrian worlds were more peaceful and prosperous than they had been in centuries. Trade resumed, scientific research expanded, art and culture flourished without the oppressive weight of military rule. But the most important change was in how the Zephyrians saw themselves and their place in the galaxy. Elder Sekthar spoke for many when he addressed a gathering of human and alien civilians. For generations, our leaders told us that we were superior to other species, that our strength gave us the right to dominate others. The humans have shown us the truth. Real strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Real superiority comes from lifting others up, not crushing them down. The message spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had once feared the Zephyrian dominion now watched in amazement as former enemy worlds became peaceful, prosperous members of the galactic community under human guidance. Ambassador Kithara of the Vorthak Empire sent a private message to the human leadership. You have accomplished something we thought impossible. You have turned conquerors into protectors, warriors into peacemakers. The galaxy is safer because of your actions. But the humans made it clear that their patience had limits. Admiral Morrison's final broadcast to the galaxy was brief and unmistakable. We came in peace and were met with violence. We responded with overwhelming force until the threat was eliminated. This is how humanity deals with aggression. We hope never to repeat this lesson, but we will if necessary. The former Zephyrian dominion stood as proof of human resolve. Attack humanity and face total destruction, but surrender and find mercy, protection, and the chance to build a better future. 6 months after the attack on the UES horizon, the galaxy had changed forever. Trade routes that had been plagued by pirates for centuries were now safe under human patrol. Weaker species that had lived in fear of aggressive neighbors now prospered under human protection. The balance of power had shifted completely. Ambassador Tony Richardson stood before the Galactic Council, representing humanity for the first time since the war began. The same chamber where Ambassador Kithara had delivered her warning now hosted a very different kind of speech. The seats were filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all watching the human ambassador with a mixture of respect and fear. Members of the Galactic Council, Richardson began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast hall. 6 months ago, humanity was unknown to most of you. We were explorers, scientists, and diplomats seeking peaceful contact with our galactic neighbors. That mission of peace was met with unprovoked violence and threats of enslavement. He gestured to a holographic display showing the former Zephyrian dominion. Where once there had been a militaristic empire built on conquest and slavery, now there were peaceful worlds rebuilding under human guidance. The Zephyrian dominion no longer exists as a military threat. Their war criminals have been tried and sentenced. Their civilian populations are free and protected. Their worlds are more prosperous than they have been in generations. This is what happens when aggression meets human justice. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some species had hoped the humans would simply leave after their victory. Others had feared humanity would become another conquering empire. What they saw instead was something entirely new in galactic politics. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding the patrol vessel UES Guardian, received a priority communication while on routine patrol near the former Dominion border. Pirates had been reported attacking merchant vessels in the area, preying on the chaos left by the war. Captain, reported Lieutenant Tom Davis from the sensor station, I'm reading 3 ships attacking a civilian freighter. Energy signatures, match known pirate vessels. Morrison studied the tactical display. The freighter was Altarian, a peaceful species known for their trade goods and nonviolent culture. The attacking ships were flying no flags, claiming no allegiance, but their tactics were clear. All hands to battle stations, Morrison ordered. Signal the attacking vessels to cease their assault and surrender immediately. The response from the pirates was predictable, weapons fire directed at the Guardian. But these pirates had never faced human military technology or tactics. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. Morrison opened a channel to the rescued freighter. Altarian, vessel, this is Captain Morrison of the United Earth Forces. Are you injured? Do you require assistance? The grateful voice of the Altarian captain came through clearly. Human ship, we are damaged, but alive. Thank you for saving us. We have heard stories about human protection, but to experience it ourselves, we are forever grateful. This scene was repeated throughout the galaxy. Human ships patrolled trade routes, responded to distress calls, and intervened wherever the strong preyed upon the weak. But they did so not as conquerors seeking tribute, but as protectors asking nothing in return, except peace. Ambassador Cathara requested a private meeting with Richardson after the council session. In her personal chambers, the ancient Vorthak diplomat poured a traditional beverage and studied the human representative. You know, she said thoughtfully, I warned them about your species. I told them what would happen if they attacked you, without cause. But even I did not fully understand what you would become. Richardson accepted the offered drink and sat across from the alien diplomat. What do you mean? I expected retaliation. I expected your people to destroy the Zephyrian military and then withdraw to your own space. Instead, you have appointed yourselves protectors of the entire galaxy. You patrol our space lanes, defend our merchants, and shelter our weak. Why? Richardson considered the question carefully. Because we can. Because it's right. Because if we don't protect innocent people, who will? Cathara's expression showed something like wonder. In 3,000 years of life, I have seen countless species rise to power. All of them use their strength to dominate others. You are the first. To use your strength to protect others, it is unprecedented. The conversation was interrupted by an emergency signal. Richardson activated his communication device and heard the voice of Admiral Phillips from Earth Command. Tony, we have a situation developing in the Rigel sector. The hegemony fleet is massing near the Tau Ceti colonies. Intelligence suggests they may be planning an attack on human civilians. Richardson's expression hardened. The hegemony had been neutral during the Zephyrian War, but their military leaders had been making increasingly aggressive statements about human expansion. What are your orders, Admiral? Diplomatic solution first, but be ready for military action. The President has authorized full fleet deployment if necessary. We will not allow another unprovoked attack on our people. Richardson turned back to Cathara. It seems not everyone has learned the lesson of the Zephyrian dominion. The ancient diplomat's face showed genuine concern. The hegemony military is larger than the Zephyrians ever were. Their technology is more advanced. If they attack your people, then they will face the same response the Zephyrians did, Richardson said simply. Complete, total, and final elimination of the threat to our people. Within hours, the largest human fleet ever assembled was moving toward hegemony space. But before they could arrive, something unexpected happened. The hegemony's own civilian government arrested their military commanders and issued a formal apology to humanity. General Zorthak, the hegemony's former military leader, was delivered to human authorities along with a message from the new civilian government. We have learned from the fate of the Zephyrian dominion. We choose peace over destruction. The incident sent a clear message throughout the galaxy. No species, no matter how powerful, was willing to test human resolve a second time. Captain Morrison returned to patrol duty with the Guardian, but now his mission had expanded. Instead of exploring unknown space, he was protecting known space. His crew included not just humans, but volunteers from dozens of species who wanted to serve under human leadership. Captain, called out Ensign Veltara, a young Zephyrian who had joined the crew after the war. We're receiving a distress call from a colony in the Vega system. They report raiders attacking their settlements. Morrison smiled. The former enemies were now crew members. The former victims were now protected, and the galaxy was safer than it had been in centuries. Set course for Vega, maximum speed. Signal the raiders that they are interfering with a protected world under human authority. If they do not withdraw immediately, we will enforce the peace. As the Guardian jumped to faster-than-light travel, Morrison reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had not sought to become the galaxy's police force, but circumstances had thrust that role upon them. They had accepted it because someone had to protect the innocent, and they had proven they were willing to do what others could not or would not do. The new warning broadcast throughout galactic space no longer came from a single worried diplomat. It came from the Galactic Council itself, backed by the authority of every major civilization. Attention all species. Humanity has demonstrated their military capability and moral resolve. They seek peace through strength and protection of the innocent. Any unprovoked attack on human vessels, human civilians, or those under human protection will result in swift and total retaliation. This is not a threat. It is a guarantee. The galaxy had learned the hardest lesson possible. Never attack humans because you will not survive their response. But they had also learned something equally important. If you came to humanity in peace, you would find the most loyal allies and protectors in the known universe. The age of predatory empires was over. The age of human protection had begun.